On each knee I currently have 2 candles lit, Nation. One is blue, one is white. It's because we are dealing with a double album. We're dealing with one of the biggest and most important releases of the summer. And we're going to do, like these 2 candles, each disc individually. Baroness's landmark 3rd release, Yellow and Green, which will be in stores on July the 17th. If you're watching this from the future, well, you know that it's already out because you probably haven't. Yellow and Green is the titanic undertaking of a band that has reached critical acclaim due to their last album, Blue Record, which came out just a couple of years ago in 2009. And with this landmark double album, many things were set to be explored. The band themselves, having toured relentlessly, got re-inspired to enter the studio and create an opus that I have a feeling that a lot of people will not be able to forget and will be on the tongues of various individuals for a long time. The reason for this is going to be in the fact that this is an album that is landmark in its difference, but also very safe in its similarities to their previous works. It's to the point where it's almost as though they saw what they had done. They saw the work that they had done previous to this. But it was starting to become like a bad rerun of a television show. Whenever all they had to do in order to kind of craft their next masterpiece was simply get up, shut off the television, and start fresh. And that's exactly what they aim to do with this double album. They aim to explore new territory and new sounds. Yellow is definitely exhibit A of this. Because on Yellow, I hear something that I never thought that I would say for another album of the metal universe, but I am going to be doing it. A number of years back, there was a band that was of the prog dominance, known as Pure Reason Revolution. And they crafted albums that reminded me of the progressive rock that I loved, but also of another band, that band being the Beach Boys. Yellow, at some points and locations, reminds me and makes me think that Baroness is doing their best to create the pet sounds of the sludge alternative metal generation that we are currently a part of. There are vocal harmonies on this that are absolutely beautiful. And the music is psychedelic in its nature. It's able to weave itself in the background around these vocals. Now, whenever you hear the very first track off of this album, and I'm excluding the Yellow theme, the Yellow opener, whenever you hear the very first actual track on this record, you kind of get that feeling that you have re-entered the Baroness universe, but something feels a little bit different about it. Something feels a little bit foreign to you. And it's not just because it's a new record, it's because it's a completely different idea in general. This is a band that is exploring new territories, new sounds, and a new idea, a new philosophy, really trying to embrace this concept that they're able to put a very worldly spin on their music as far as their tastes are concerned. They're able to harvest and create beautiful melodies and let them swirl and really build on themselves in order to create a masterful whole. There's moments in the middle of Yellow that just feel absolutely ethereal. The beauty is unmastered by anybody else. This is an album that really proves why Baroness is one of the most talented metal bands, that also happens to be a rock band, that also happens to be a sludgy kind of stoner heaven, that has broken onto the scene in the past probably decade. They were able to do something with this record that's going to appeal to a lot of people. And typically whenever you say the words, it's going to appeal to a lot of people, it's a bad thing. Because metal and appeal just usually do not shake hands, like this album kind of does shake hands with it. You can find a lot of love for this album from various niches of music fan. Metal fans that are willing to embrace progressive rock, that are willing to embrace the downright slightly alternative, that are maybe awash in the alternative that existed yesteryear prior to the nu metal explosion. You know, from bands such as REM, from bands such as the Gin Blossoms, which I just saw, you know, a couple of days ago. Maybe not quite that poppy, but, you know, I'm getting the general idea across. And then, of course, sludge metal, stoner metal, alternative metal, progressive metal. it's all combined here. It is a nicely knit, combined effort on this album, because it's heavy where it needs to be, and if it needs to really build a really strong point on a song, that is present. But at some points, all is needed is soft, enchanting music, where the power is really in the voice, where the power is delivered, both in the vocals and just in the harmonies that you hear. The combined effort of these two ideas is going to create an intense backlash. The reason why I say that is because if there is one thing that we know about music fans today is that they are not always going to be ripe enough to accept what has occurred whenever it first occurs. Sometimes with some albums, it takes repeated listens. It takes real ambition. It takes a real desire to enjoy a record in order for it to really happen, in order for its fruits to bear to a listener's ears and be ingested and refill their soul. Yellow has really inspired me to feel that progressive rock, progressive metal, and just a downright progressive idea has really started to take hold, and it really has gripped its fingers around where it's taken hold to make a fist to indicate its proud stance, not to mention also its intention to not depart anytime soon. Whenever you hear melodies that reminisce you to the days of the Beach Boys, to the eras such as the 60s, whenever you listen to a record that reminds you of what it may have felt like in that mystical summer of '69, where psychedelic rock was awash all over the radio speakers, where stoners everywhere, or people that were perhaps in San Francisco that were experimenting with acid and LSD and other psychedelic drugs were listening to these records by these bands that were just really expanding the music universe while also expanding their own minds. And you're listening to this while you're doing the exact same thing. There's a certain even footing to this that makes an album such as Yellow feel all the more honest. What will Green hold? After listening to an album like Yellow, it's almost... you can't wait to get to Green. You cannot wait to experience Green because Yellow has just knocked you flat on your ass. And your hopes and expectations is that Green, instead of letting you back up, just keeps you on your ass. But we will see. But thus far, Yellow is a very, very strong leg to stand on. And if it were a solo album by itself, would command a very, very large score. Like their Blue record from 2009, Yellow is now in the past for me. And the review of Yellow is now in the past for you. We will continue on to Green. Stay tuned. In the next video, we will discuss that album and summarize Yellow and Green by Baroness.